Hi, I'm Rosie Grant, Executive Director of Paterson Education Fund. Welcome to the 2019 Paterson School Board Election Candidates Forum, sponsored by PEF. We would like to thank the Paterson Public Schools and John F. Kennedy Educational Complex for hosting this forum. PEF, as we're commonly known, or Paterson Public Schools, are not endorsing any of the candidates, but rather providing an opportunity for you to get to know them. Karen Brown, PEF's board secretary, will be asking the questions of the candidates. Volunteers will be taking written questions, if any, from the audience. There are 7 candidates vying for 3 three-year terms in this election. Due to the number of candidates, we're filming in 2 segments, so please be sure to watch both segments. Our audience can learn more about the candidates and the election issues in PEF's Voter's Guide, available on our website, www.paterson-education.org, or by calling us for a hard copy at 973-881-8914. Thank you. Let's move to the questions. Karen.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, all candidates will answer the same set of questions.
Please limit your answers to 2 minutes. At this time, we would like you to each take 1 minute to introduce yourselves.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to thank the Paterson Education Fund for putting together this forum. My name is Corey Teague. I'm a lifelong resident of the city, longtime community activist, former school board member, and I am looking for your vote this year. My ballot position is 2D. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Iris Rigo. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation. I'm a mother of 3 children. 1 attend to the Paterson Public School, and I really appreciate the invitation, and I'm going to be in the ballot for the. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Paterson. First, I would like to thank the PEF, Rosie Grant, her team, who does an excellent job day in and day out supporting the Paterson Public Schools and just education in general. I just want to thank you guys for this, putting on this forum tonight and for the viewers to get to know every candidate. My name is Commissioner Emmanuel Capers, and I'm running for a re-election for the Paterson School Board. I need you, your family, your friends' support so I can continue to fight. And what's the fight? The fight is to continue so every kid could get a fair and quality education in the Paterson Public Schools. So before my minute is up, I do want to send my condolences to the family of a young kid from Martin Luther King School who died yesterday to gun violence. It's very tragic. I'm praying for the family. I'm also praying for the schools, the teachers, the administrators, the lunch monitors, everybody who that young man touched, and all the friends. And the district is doing a great job sending crisis teams there, and so we're moving forward. But I am 1D on the ballot. My time is up. I'm 1D on the ballot. I need you, your family support. Thank you.
Now for the first question. Paterson is about halfway through the process of returning to local control. How do you see yourself contributing to the process? Let's start with Mr. Teague.
Yes, wonderful question. I can say that I was one of the board members or a part of the process for bringing our schools to this particular point. I happened to be in the room when that decision was finally voted on by the New Jersey Board of Education, State Board of Education, where I see myself in this particular process as being the voice for our children. I've often said that if you are here for any other reason than to represent and to protect and serve our children, then you have no business being here. So that's where I fit in. I'm going to fit in as being the voice for our children and making sure that they have the services that they need. I know in the past, some folks have criticized and said, well, I know you speak about assisting special needs children, but what about all children? And I often tell them, yes, I always fight and represent every single child that comes before me, every parent that has a concern, as many of you know. I will have a interest in special education because my son is currently in special education within the Paterson School District. So yes, I'm going to keep a close eye on that, but I can guarantee you that I will as a part of this process moving into local control, make sure that there's some stability on the board and make sure that there's a voice there. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can speak for myself in saying that I am the person that is actually going to be there to fight. I've been to Trenton. I mean, I can't even count how many times I've stood before the Assembly and the Senate demanding full funding for our schools. And we're going to need that, because as we go into local control, the state is going to then monitor us to see how well we can handle ourselves without the state overview. So we're going to have strong people on that school board who can actually fight and who won't lay down to political agendas or special interests or anything like that. I am the candidate that will make that happen. When I was on the board, I did it. So I'm not saying anything that I haven't done or anything that I have not doing presently. This is who I am. I know when we use the word fighter, a lot of times that has a bad connotation to it. So they say, well, the more proper word is to say advocate, but I'm here to fight for you. And that's where I'm going to be in this transition. Thank you.
I want to be the voice for the children of Paterson, New Jersey, because I have 3 children, and I have one that goes to school 26, and one of his concern is why we have 34 students in one classroom. So that's a shame. Where is the money is going for the budget? Where is the budget to pay all these teachers that they fire? Why we don't rehire all those teachers? That's the voice that I wanted to bring to the Board of Education. Thank you so much.
Karen, thank you for the question. It's a great question. As we move to local control, what does that mean? The board makes all the decisions. The board it comes to all 9 of us. We're the final say. And I have to, just have to be brutally honest here. Myself, just in this past year, this was the first year the board got to vote on the budget. I voted it down because as we move into local control, there was a tax hike that was presented that the administration, the current Ms. Schaefer and administration team presented a tax hike, and also they presented a bunch of different cuts. And so we have to vote on that. It's no more the state coming in and making those decisions. We make those decisions. And I voted that down because, one, I believe that budget didn't represent a fair and quality education for any of our students. That's number 1. Number 2 is, as we move into local control, we need so many different upgrades in terms of facilities. Is so lacking, but we did so many different improvements. As now I'm the facilities chair throughout this whole year. Also, we have to improve our math and literacy rates as we move into local control. That's going to be important. We don't need more intervention. We don't need more tests. We need to provide more. We need to equip all of our teachers so they can have the resources, so we can raise our scores in literacy and math. Especially, there's one actual fact that the African American children in the district are the lowest performing children. And as we move to local control, that has to be addressed. But we don't need more intervention. We don't need more, none of those different things. We got to give these teachers what they need, and so our students can learn and be successful throughout their education career here.
Thank you. Now for the second question. Given that the district is underfunded by the state of New Jersey, what will be your role in ensuring that our kids get a thorough and efficient education? Let's start with Ms. Rigo.
Well, I know that the school, they don't have the supplies inside the classroom, and that's one of my concerns. I've been walking around and I've been stopped by teachers, and the first thing that they ask me is, oh, why you don't fight for the school supplies that we don't have? We don't have the stuff that we need to teach the children's, and that's one of my concern. It made me so mad when I hear stuff like this, because I know we have the money, we have the budget to pay for all this. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Given that the district is underfunded by the state of New Jersey, what will be your role in ensuring that our kids get a thorough and efficient education?
Thank you for that. I could add to that. I think we're criminally underfunded, and we've been criminally underfunded for quite some time, and that's what we have to really understand. But even with the funds we do get, we have to be good stewards over. That's one. We have to choose how we spend. In this last budget year, I was very vocal and doing some different program cuts, and I took a lot of heat for it. But I knew that there's certain moves we can't make, and while we underfunded, there's certain things we can't do because of the fact that it will affect the instruction that's going on in the classroom. I think we should start with the model of building, when we receive our funds, building within the classroom. You build in the classroom first, and then you build up to the administration. That's how we have to work and operate. But in the past, before I was on the board, we were operating the opposite way. We were very top heavy. We had a bunch of consultants. We had a bunch of stuff, just craziness going on, spending here, spending there. It was just crazy. So this year, we really took a hard look at these budgets. Even from in the beginning of the year, some of my colleagues joined up with me. Even we stopped a bunch of law firms coming. It was the crazy amount of money we were spending. But now we're on track. We're spending wisely, even though we're underfunded. But how do we advocate? We have to go to Trenton. We have to hold our state legislators accountable. I know I've been on so many trips down to Trenton, month in and month out, joining some different advocacy groups, advocating for funds for Paterson. So that's what we have to do, is going down to Trenton, is having those hard conversations with legislators. When the governor comes in town, when the state superintendent, the state superintendent comes into town, you have to hold these guys accountable instead of just taking pictures with them. You have to hold these guys accountable. Hey, we are in a struggle. So that's how I hold them accountable. Thank you.
Paterson Public Schools currently is illegally underfunded by almost $280 million, but it didn't start that way. Back in 2008, the New Jersey Supreme Court made a decision in terms of the funding and how districts are funded. The governor at the time, Chris Christie, wanted all of the school districts to be funded equally. The problem with the funding being equal is it's not always equitable. When funding is equitable, it says we have to give each district the amount of money that we need to make sure they can function, which means if we have to give one district a little bit more money than another district because that district needs the help, that's how we're going to shift the money to make sure that all of the students get a fair and equitable education. So the SFRA, School Funding Reform Act, was about equity, not so much equality, but equity to make sure everybody has what they need. Now, fast forward, we have been every year, and the way that we've been underfunded, Governor Christie used a very ingenious and diabolical plan. He flat funded the district every single year. Now, some people may say, well, it's just flat funding. It's not underfunding. Wrong. If the costs do go up of supplies and insurance and whatever else we have, if the costs go up and the funding remains the same, it puts us in the red. And the governor didn't care about that. His thing was, no, I want equality for all. But he wasn't addressing the fact of equity, of making sure that all our children have the same opportunity, which means some districts might need a little more. So what I'm going to do is what I've been doing since 2008. I'm going to continue to fight every administration that I come across, from the governor's office to the superintendent's office, until we are given the money that we deserve. We can't plan and base our budget on money that doesn't even suffice or doesn't even mount up to what we need to actually allow our district to function properly. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to continue to be that loudmouth down in Trenton. When they have the Senate budget hearings, the Assembly budget hearings, I'm going to be the loudmouth at that table, pounding my fists and saying, we demand our money. You guys are going against the New Jersey Supreme Court. Let me just mention this. In 2009, a bunch of us parents got together and we sued the school district because of this funding issue. We won our lawsuit, and hundreds of children who received special education services got those services. So we got to keep fighting. We can't sit still anymore.
Thank you. Now for our third question. Many Paterson kids have experienced adverse childhood effects, commonly known as ACEs. What are some policies that could help to ensure that they are safe in and out of school while also providing social and emotional support. Let's start with Mr. Capers.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear half the question. You said children are affected by what?
Many Paterson kids have experienced adverse childhood effects, commonly known as ACEs. What are some policies that could help to ensure that they are safe in and out of school while also providing social and emotional support?
Got it. Thank you for that. So one thing I want to be clear on is when it comes down to policies, I'm one of the standing board members that have written the most policies in the district over the last 3 years. Didn't get everything passed, but got most of them passed. But when it comes to social and emotional learning, this is a new thing. It came down for our commissioner, state commissioner, that he's been doing. Our kids deal with a lot of trauma in our district. They deal with a lot of issues that's brought from the outside, home issues, all those different conflicts. Now it's our job to make sure when these children walk through our door, one, we're welcoming, and two, that we could provide them the structure so they could be successful while they're in our schools. So if it's having more, now we have this restorative justice this year that's going on that I believe, the PEA, the big part of restorative justice.
That's
where
PEF.
PEF, I'm sorry, not PEA. You're right. Sorry, it's too many P. Restorative justice programs that's going on in our district. Circle times, actually the PEF, they did it with the school board members when we was going through conflict, and they had all 9 of us. And when we was dealing with all these other things, we had a restorative justice circle time. And now that's what's being implemented in all of our schools. And so that's one big thing that I am really, really excited about, that our kids are getting, that deal with conflict and all that other things. Also, too, is having outside also groups come in, churches, also different nonprofit organizations that help us deal with those home problems. We have more full service community schools where bullying is going on and all those different things, where kids could get those resources if they don't have a belt or anything else like that, or clean uniforms and stuff like that. Now we have a safe haven for them, and we set that up. Thank you.
Mr. T.
Yes. Okay, that's a very good question, and this is where I get to really shine, because I've heard in the past people have said that we don't need activists on the board, we just need folks that are going to legislate. Well, this is one of those issues where an advocate is really needed. I want to take a moment to give a shout out to Reverend Marcus Dubnam. At my daughter's school, Don Bosco Tech, he is pretty much like the spiritual advisor or the coordinator or the connection between the school, the students, and the community. If we're going to draft a policy, it should be a policy that would allow people like Reverend Marcus, even if they have to get fingerprinted and background checked and so forth, to be able to have access to all the schools in the district at any time. So where if you see a child that needs help, because sometimes children are not going to tell you that something's wrong. You can see it on their face when they come to the classroom. So we have to have, if we're going to craft a policy, because as Commissioner Capers said, he's the policy guy. I'm the mouth and he's the policy dude. So I would bring it to him. This is how we work together as a board. I would bring it to him and say, Commissioner Capers, can you draft a policy that would allow these folks to be able to go into our schools at any moment and talk to the children? If they see that a child is distressed, that the teacher can call them on their phone and they're able to come in, because you will be surprised how much a child's life will turn around if you just take them to get something to eat. You have kids that go home and they have no food. The breakfast at school is their breakfast. The lunch is their lunch, and they have nothing else till they come back. So you'll be surprised if you get in that child's mind and see what's going on with them. There could be an issue of domestic violence in the home. That domestic violence affects the child in every way. So it's not always what's going on in the school. A lot of it's what's going on in the home. So those of us that are spiritual advisors or ministers, ordained pastors, we need to try to create, without crossing the barriers of school and religion, have some sort of thing that says, okay, we have a group of ministers that are ready and prepared and on call to go to any school at any moment when there's a crisis. I believe that would be a way to try to, we're not going to be able to solve every little single issue, but I do believe that if we implement a policy like that, we would be able to address majority of those issues that take place, hopefully before they get out of hand.
Thank you, Corey. I'll get working on that policy.
There you go.
It's like Mr. T say, bringing like minister to come to church, to the school and preach to these kids. I think it will be a good help. Thank you.
Now for our next question. With the understanding that the school board's role is policy and not administration, what will be your legacy to future generations of students? Let's start with Mr. Teague.
Yes. My legacy to the students of Paterson, they're going to know me as Mr. T. You guys remember Mr. T from back in the 80s, I think, the 90s with the big chain on his neck, the guy that would walk in there and get things right. That's what they're going to remember me. They're going to say Mr. Teague was that guy who was not afraid to address any issue within the district. And I also know where my place is. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I'm a policy guy. My boy, Commissioner Capers, is that guy. I'm the guy that you could come to and say, I need you, Mr. Teague, to address a certain issue. I need you to speak out on a certain issue. I need you to be my voice for my children, which I'm already doing. You all know me out there. I get phone calls every day. I was told to reach out to you because they say you'll get it done. So I want the children and future generations, just like my daughter. My daughter tells me all the time, and you all see it on Facebook. She says she wants to be an activist like her dad. So that's the legacy I want. I want to be able to prove that you can be an activist and you can serve the children and still be a school board member. That activists can be school board members. Even if it's not all activists, but there should be at least one voice or two voices up there that are not tied to anything and can just say what they need to say to get the word out. That's why we work together cohesively. There's 9 board members. Everyone is going to come to the board with a different speciality, a different edge, a different thing that they can do to bring the entire board to where it needs to be. From my perspective, it's activism. I'm the guy that's going down to Trenton. I know a lot of folks might not be able to. I'll be that guy. I'll be the one that they talk junk about because he's always down here in our face. That's where I'm going to be at. So my legacy is going to be the man who stands up for what he believes is right, even if he has to stand alone. You know, vote however he feels he needs to vote, even if he's voting by himself, but taking a stand on what you believe in and the principles that you believe in. That's the legacy that I want to leave for my children and for future generations. That was Mr. T. Whether you like him or not, he got the job done. He knew how to make the connections. He knew how to connect the community. He knew how to get the job done one way or the other.
And also, the voice that I wanted to be when I become a commissioner is that I wanted to fight for the kids. I wanted to be that voice out there that it can make a difference for my children and for all your children. Thank you so much.
When you speak about legacy, you got to think about policy. Over the last 3 years, I've written policy. One of the first policies I've written, and I saw this as a major issue the first couple of months I got on the board, and that was our law department. We have so many different investigations going on, and it was dragging. These outside contract lawyers were taking months, some years to do all these investigations, and we're spending, and these lawyers getting paid by the hour very handsomely. And I wrote my first policy. I said, hey, all these investigations has to be done within 30 days. If you need more time, you have to get board approval. And you know that saved us a lot of money, especially in the legal department. Another, when we talk about legacy, when you walk into these different schools, sometimes the kids don't know. They experience a new room, they get a new classroom, they get new things. Sometimes they don't know who's behind it, but sometimes the teachers know. And one of the things I did with the teachers is when I got on the board too, my second year, and I fought for this hard, is when a teacher or anybody, administrator, anybody got suspended, they called this room the rubber room. And is when they get suspended, if they under investigation, they get sent to this one room, and they sitting there for months, sometimes some years. And we got a lawsuit just a year ago. A teacher sued for $200,000 because she was sitting in this room for a suspensory amount of time. And I abolished that. I wrote a policy to abolish it. Now, when a teacher or anybody gets suspended, you go home until the investigation is done. You don't sit nobody in the room. I just felt that the culture was bad. Some other policies I have written that this district would take advantage of coding, that we changed some different learning pathways. Now we have coding in our district. Or it was a resolution I put together that our district would take advantage of some different things. If I have more time, I'll talk about more policies. But these are the type of legacy that I'm leaving on the board, and I continue to leave so many more because we have a lot of jacked up policies that we still need to address that's on the board that our kids and administrators can really benefit off of. Thank you.
At this time, we would like to take questions from the audience. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move right into closing statements. At this time, would you like to share in 1 minute with our voters anything you would like before we conclude? Let's start with Ms. Rigo.
Well, I just wanted to motivate the voters to be like consistent, going and make that vote so we can all make changes in the Board of Education. This is something like that I see every day in my house with my son, that I wanted to fight for the community. I wanted to fight for the kids. I wanted to fight for the teacher. And we wanted to see all those statements that need to be open and clear. So I motivate every voter to go November 5th, vote for the Iris Rigo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, PEF, again for having us. I do appreciate the topics. I could talk all night when it comes to this. I'm very passionate about school board issues, but voters, Paterson, we have a decision to make on November 5th. You need to elect candidates that's standing with our children, that's going to fight for your children and all of our children, no matter what race or color they are. And I've been that guy. I've been that voice, and I'm going to continue being that voice. I'm going to continue to hammer on, and I'm going to continue to hammer this administration to hold them accountable and to make sure they do what they're supposed to do. And I'm not here to make friends. I have enough of them. I'm here so every kid could receive a fair and quality education in this district. And I believe it can happen. We have a lot of doubters that School 6 can't be a turnaround school. I believe in my heart that while I'm on this board, that's going to be a turnaround school. I have that. I'm really passionate about it. And I think, schools like that in different areas and different wards will be turnaround schools. And that's what I'm fighting for all of our kids, that they receive a fair quality education. I am 1D on the ballot. Please tell your family, your friends, everyone you know, please vote. You don't have, I'm not far. You can just I'm number 1. I'm right there, and I'm going to be here. Thank you. Thank you again.
Yes, I want to thank the PEF also for giving us this opportunity tonight. In 2012, when I first ran for the Board of Education, I made a commitment to you that I would fight for you and for your children and for the entire community. I stayed there until 2016. I tried to run for re-election in 2015. I was unsuccessful, but I never gave up the commitment. I continued to fight. I ran again in 2016. I wasn't successful, but I never gave up the fight. Ran again in 2018, wasn't successful. I continued the fight. Let me tell you, even if I'm not successful this year, I will not give up the fight. I'm going to continue to fight for you, your children, and the whole community. The fight that I have for you is not going to be based on an election. I would love for you all to come out on November 5th and vote 2D. I would love to be getting sworn in January. However, if that's not the case, I want you to know that I'm going to continue to be your voice. I'm going to continue to hold people accountable, and you can continue to call me to fight for your children, to fight for you, and to fight for the entire community. Thank you.
On behalf of Paterson Education Fund, thank you, candidates, for participating. And thank you, viewers, for watching. Don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November 5th. Our kids can't vote, but you can. They need you. Good luck with your campaign.